So I've watched the back and forth between Academic Agent and the Distributist now, and I actually thought it was a good. They were two good videos to watch in the way you find yourself kind of agreeing with one person and then kind of agreeing with some of the things the other person says in response. Obviously, I do still have a lot of respect for AA, and also I do have a lot of respect for Dave. I'll probably make the thumbnail a bit more hypey and sloppy than it actually is, but hey, we all need to get the views. And so now I think we can kind of flesh out a bit more about where the actual differences are between people and see if we can sort of find a way to move forward. So I'll go through a bit of a script from now of where I think the kind of major points of disagreement are. So basically, my understanding of AA's position is that AA thinks that the culture war has basically become a psyop promoted by Zionists, and now the right is basically playing into their hands by continuing any kind of culture war style discourse. My take on this is slightly different. I think that the culture war period of sort of 2015 to 2025, sort of say Trump's second inauguration, was a blow to the regime as it has come to be known, and that the 10 years that followed from the outbreak of Gamergate exposed the existence of this regime to more people than ever before, to the point where it got to like an almost critical mass level. And if we consider that the regime in that period contained both Zionist and what we might call techno globalist elements, when the Zionist element decided that they were going to back Trump somewhere, before his second election, because they had slowly realized that woke was going to backfire on the Zionists pretty badly, they quickly changed their allegiance. And the current situation seems to me to be one of growing schisms within that oligarchy between essentially the Zionists, the globalists, and the emerging new tech elite. And I think, again, this is somewhere where I differ from AA, is that I still see the fact that the oligarchy was forced into what was essentially a containment move is a victory for whatever we represented in the preceding decade, because forcing your opponents into a tactical retreat is better than getting steamrolled. If you imagine a timeline where we had all done nothing, it would surely be even worse than our current predicament. And we wouldn't have, Labour Home Secretaries pushing, some, making some moves in the right direction in terms of a lot of policies. You wouldn't be seeing that from a Labour Home Secretary if we hadn't done what we did. And I think the other aspect where I disagree with AA is he completely underplays the role and power of the cathedral. And I think his current tactic of simply just oppose the Zionists, whatever they do, does get kind of exposed in this Trump versus the Beeb saga. Because I disagree with AA when the idea that you can save it, I don't agree with that at all. If it was going to be reformed, we still have no organizational power representing us. And until we do, our best hope is that other sides that we oppose can basically take hits on each other. And this is exactly what's happening here. And, you know, the BBC has been a centre for leftist subversion since the days of Guy Burgess. And it sustains one of the major left wing parties in the UK. And I'm not talking about the Labour Party there, I'm talking about the London Dinner Party, many of which will be paid for by salaries from our national broadcaster. So I think to get this, you know, to get to the point where you can just say no more license fee, take out £3 billion worth of annual funding towards our enemies is just too good an opportunity to miss. And even if there was going to be reform, we wouldn't be the ones reforming it. So it doesn't matter. You know, they're not going to make AA the Director General of the BBC. It's just not going to happen. And obviously, AA talks a lot about the problem of the Larrys, which is, I guess, Larry Fink, Larry Ellison, and Larry, who's at Google. I've forgotten his surname, but I don't know. Three of the most powerful guys in the world, and they're all called Larry. Um, I believe they may have something else in common. And I think for me, you know, is it capitalism the problem, or is it that essentially our capitalism is subservient to Zionism through this connection of so many of the sort of A, people who are rich, and B, people who are rich and in charge of these very powerful organizations obviously share certain things in common. For example, I'd love to hear what A had to say about this. Um, in the Palantir office, there is a portrait of Michel Foucault. Now, I don't call that putting the woke away at all. You know, these guys, they do not, and it makes you wonder what is motivating them. What is there, you know, is it all about shareholder returns? You know, if it was, surely they'd have like, I don't know, Reagan or Thatcher or Milton Friedman on the wall, but they don't. And that's in their head office. Um, my suggestion to the FBI would be to go and have a very quick look around the hard drives of the people that work in that office. Because if you love Michael Foucault, the chances of there being child pornography on your computer goes up by a factor of at least 10. So that in itself is something. And I think another thing that I would be interested to hear from AA would be with regards once again to the woke being put away is currently on the London Stock Exchange. If you are a group of five white guys who have built up a company and you now wish to take it to an IPO, so an initial public offering, so when a company is first put on the stock market, and you say, hey, we'd like to put our company on the London Stock Exchange, their answer will be no, you have to now go and fire two of you and replace one of you with a woman and one of you with an ethnic minority, or possibly fire one of you and replace them with an ethnic minority woman. Whereas the rules that are currently in place, if it was, say, for example, five black women or five Indian women who had started a company, they would be able to put an IPO out on the London Stock Exchange. When at a time when, quite frankly, any company, if I was the CEO of the London Stock Exchange Group, if any company wanted to do an IPO on the fucking FTSE right now, I would fly a private jet filled with money and cocaine and prostitutes and anything else that might persuade them to do this directly to their location, because that is something that we desperately, desperately need to happen right now. You know, the stock exchange is the magic money tree, not the money printer. And right now it's not being watered and it's dying. And it's definitely easy to forget the things that we've learned over the past 10 years and slip back into old ways of thinking. And I'm as guilty of that as anyone. But I think if we remember our Burnham, what we know from that is any group that is going to take power, if you're going to have this revolution of elites you, and overturn the system, you have to build up power within the current system first in order to do that. That's why I think the kind of left wing socialist way of going is going to be a failure, because once again that's a group that has no power. And I think the chances are that if there is a new elite, it's going to be a tech elite, because they are the people who are capable of producing the things like in the future, like the AI, not AA. Yeah, they are the people who are capable of producing the AI that is going to change the world and is going to give them power. If you're going to be, because we have managerialism, the people who are going to, and that's if you exist in a large country of millions of people nowadays, you're going to have managerialism. They are the ones who are going to be able to do that efficiently with AI. And because they're the people who know how it works, they've got the technical expertise. Power is going to flow to them. And I don't think there's any way you can stop that. So if we're going to have a new elite, it is probably going to be the tech elite. And the best thing that we can do as kind of essentially political intellectuals, like I don't classify myself as an intellectual, but someone like AA would, the best thing that they can hope to do is influence those people, rather than kind of build a movement that's going to take power by itself. And I think the other thing, I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly, but I think the other thing that I'm not so sure about is AA is very quick to extend the olive branch to people like, Ashkar, stuff like that, who he's saying, oh, the left's changed. But I mean, one of the classic examples of this is someone like Mehdi Hassan. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen it. I put it up on my channel before, but there's clips of a young Mehdi Hassan saying very, very fundamentalist Muslim ideas, attitudes, like denouncing music lovers. That's pretty fucking extreme. And while he may now present himself as, a much more enlightened liberal person, I don't know if he's changed deep down. I sincerely doubt he has. I'd imagine he holds very many of those same opinions now and just hides them while he builds up, somehow manages to build it. I fucking hate Mehdi Hassan. His face just screams dysgenics. He fucking makes me sick. I really, really fucking hate him. He's just a piece of shit. And he comes anyway. But yeah, so very quick to look past things that people, have they changed, or have they just readjusted their position because they saw that it was losing? So I'd be a little bit more cynical about some of those people. But hey, I mean, I think in that 10-year period, we have done some organization. But when you look, basically all it is like the Witan, maybe like the Old Glory Club. But we had to start from literal, bare grass. There was nothing to begin with. So we have gone some way on our organizing. But I mean, the mainstream outlook is pretty bleak. I think I've said enough in this video. There are other things I'd like to talk about, but The mainstream outlook is pretty bleak. So I think one of the things Dave talked about is focusing on more like what can be done at a local level is perhaps more important. Um, but we've got to carry on. So yeah, so that's about it. Let me know what you think of any of that in the comments. Maybe AA might do a response. But I think if we continue this kind of dialogue, it has the chance to be, enlightening, and maybe some good ideas will be produced from it. If it can continue in a reasonably civil manner. So yeah, that's probably it for today. I'll see you later.